Evening, everybody. Good Tuesday evening, everybody. David Paul here in the KHOU 11 Weather Center. Welcome to all of you joining us live across our social media and digital platforms. Good evening to all of you joining us on Plus. And this is going to be an in-depth update on what's going on in the tropics with this spot that we've been watching now since the weekend. Began as a 20% chance for development for a little wave that was located out here. As of this evening, 40% chance this develops, that from the Hurricane Center, and that is the center of our little tropical swirl. I think that's the best way to describe it right now, as a tropical swirl is an exposed circulation. When I say exposed, there's no deep thunderstorm convection underneath the center. It's exposed, but we think that might change. There's a 40% chance that we get that deep convection over the little center as it moves out into the northeast Gulf of Mexico, and that is going to be overnight tonight into probably late tonight toward midnight, 1 a.m. when it moves out over the water, and then at that point it will have a chance to get its act together and develop. And actually, just looking at this infrared satellite imagery, the last few frames, see the bright white right there? So that indicates there is a flare-up of rain and thunderstorm activity here. It is to the west of the exposed center. But again, once it gets over water, we think it'll have a little bit better chance of getting its act together. Now, this is the visible satellite loop for the past 12 hours. Now, what you see when it goes dark is that it literally is a visible satellite. This is from GOES 19, 22,000 miles above planet Earth in geosynchronous orbit. And it is just literally taking a picture, a black and white picture of the situation down on planet Earth. And so when we lose the sun, we lose the visibility, but it's a great depiction of the circulation. I'll zoom in on that in just a minute. I wanted to start with the broad view just so you can see everything in play across the Gulf Coast. The green, that is a flash flood watch that is still in effect this evening for the Texas Hill Country. They've got some scattered showers and thunder showers there. And they do have a couple of ongoing flood advisories around that flood watch as well. So we continue to monitor the Hill Country of Texas for rain tonight. That should let up tomorrow, less rain chance in Texas tomorrow. But this is interesting. That is a flood watch that has already been posted for the mouth of the Mississippi River, southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi. That is in anticipation of what there is of this system moving right down the Gulf Coast and coming in at least close enough to give them a very likely rain chance going into the middle and the end of the week. And with even these weak tropical systems, they're notorious heavy rainmakers, so they're already expecting to see flash flooding out of it, and the thing is still sitting over Florida. Let's zoom in on this. So we talk about it being an exposed tropical swirl. There it is, right there. See how you can see the low-level cloudiness? There's none of this bright cloud top smothering the center. As long as that's exposed, pressures won't drop. So the low won't deepen, it won't strengthen. For this to strengthen, that low needs to be underneath the bright white cloud tops. And you can see how one's here and one's here. They're disassociated from each other for the moment. But as that gets over open water here, we think the wind shear that's causing this is going to let up enough to perhaps allow it to develop. When I say wind shear, and we'll talk more about wind shear, at the mid-levels you've got winds coming in like this, so it's pushing those mid and high cloud tops off of the low-level center of rotation. Tropical systems are surface-based low-pressure systems, so that swirl is centered down at the surface. So that's what's going on with the system at the surface. And here's I wanted to show you this. I went past it. Here's another look at the same visible satellite, and what I've done is I've added in the surface streamline so you can see how that center has moved inland as we've gone through the day, and the center is now sitting, yeah, this is a little bit behind. It's sitting somewhere right in here. Okay. This actually gives us a better depiction of where the little center is right now. Looking at the radar, it's right here. If there is a low-level center to it, right there, as you can see the winds, the circulation curlicuing right there. Now the system is over land, so it's cut off from its energy source right now, the warm waters of the Gulf and the Atlantic. But once this gets back out over the Gulf, the sea surface temps here are very warm, and so we think that at least will help it potentially develop. If it moves due west from here, it's going to be interacting with land. That will hinder development. and also the wind shear that it's been encountering has hindered its development as well. So it actually has two strikes kind of against it. It's close to land and there is wind shear. The only thing really going for it is that there's very warm water here in the northern Gulf right now. But also one more thing I wanted to point out, while the low-level center is here, look at how far away the rain extends. 150, almost 200 miles away from where the center is, you've got rain associated with this system. What that means is that if this goes into Louisiana eventually toward the end of the week, we here in southeast Texas could easily get rain from this, and it could be heavy at times going into Friday and Saturday. Okay, spaghetti plots. So what you're looking at are a couple of things. The models that are in the darker color, those are the big global models. Those are the American model, the GFS, the European model as well. And they are very tightly clustered, taking this just south of the coast, maybe clipping the coast near Panama City, then keeping it just offshore, and then bringing it into the mouth of the Mississippi River and Lake Pontchartrain in New Orleans as we head in toward the end of the week. On a track like that, it's going to be quasi-interacting with the landmass. That will inhibit its rapid development, but it does keep the center just offshore over very warm water. The warm water would be a pro as far as it developing into a more organized, more intense circulation. And that wind shear is still there. And again, we'll look at the wind shear in a little bit. It will kind of come and go, but if the wind shear stays strong, that will also inhibit its potential wind strength development. Now, those are the dark lines. Those are the major global models. The white lines are the little bit more high resolution tropical models. And this update is interesting. The last update of this, as we went into the early afternoon, had a lot of these white lines even further south down in here. And this is an update. I'm looking at this for the first time as you are, and what I see is there is a cluster right there of tropical models that agree with the global models. So perhaps this is coming into better focus as to how this is exactly going to play out. Now, there are some of the tropical models that want to go ahead and turn this to the north into Alabama and Georgia, so those are also a possibility, but the core of models, high res and global, something right in here. Now notice there are several runs that extend into southeast Texas. So those can't be discounted right now. Those are possibilities. That's where we stand with the spaghetti plots. Wind shear. Again, this mid and upper level winds that can blow across the storm. So let me just back that up. Here's where we stand this evening. And this is what is blowing the convection off to the southeast of the low level center. Wind shear, winds at mid levels. That is tilting the whole circulation and keeping it from rapidly developing. In fact, it's inhibiting development right now. Now, there is much less shear over this part of the Gulf, even across here where the models are taking it. So if it can get out away and ahead of that shear for a little while, it might be able to get better organized. And as we look at the forecast, we'll do this real slow. We'll go into the middle of the day on Wednesday. So, here's where the stronger shear is going to be. If you'll remember, the core of the model runs taking it right here. So it may be able to get displaced from the shear, and that would allow the storm to stand up straighter. That would encourage development. So that's something we'll have to pay attention to. At the same time that's happening, though, because perhaps it's in this little corridor, it's also that developing circulation is bringing dry air off the mainland U.S. That would inhibit some of its development. So it's going to be very tricky as far as forecasting intensity. That's always one of the most difficult things to forecast in a storm is intensity. We can go forward in time with the whole shear modeling. And right here at the end, as we go into Thursday, models are flaring up a little bit more deeper convection. It is removed from the deeper shear, so it might have a chance to strengthen here before finally turning inland, perhaps in Louisiana. Perhaps. It's too early to tell exactly how that's going to play out. Again, the shear. So a healthy hurricane, if you would, or tropical storm, or developing system. needs to stand vertical to develop and strengthen. This would be an unsheared environment. This would be outside of all those green lines. It's in the green lines right now. So what it's facing right now is this. It has wind shear blowing across the mid and upper levels. It tilts the storm, and that tilting disrupts the circulation, and it can prevent a storm from forming. It can rip apart a storm that has formed. So that's why wind shear is so important. And in fact, it is a much bigger factor than sea surface temperature. Sea surface temperature is kind of like checking a box. If you have sea surface temperatures that are at or above 80, you have enough energy to form a tropical system. Temperatures in the Gulf, 86, 88. In this purple area, some of the readings in here are going to be 89 to 90 degrees. Now, that's a lot of energy, and you would think, well, any storm that goes over that is going to blow up in intensity. But not if there's wind shear. It will absolutely not blow up. It will be torn apart no matter how warm the water is. So warm water does not automatically mean you're going to get an intensifying storm. Other factors have to come together. It has to be an unsheared environment, and it really needs to be further away from land. So this is very close to the landmass of New Orleans here of Louisiana. So that will be hindrances to its potential development. Not that it can't strengthen, but these are all factors that are going to go into what I think will be a very slow to intensify system if it's going to intensify at all. So this model you're looking at is our in-house model for those Mets at home. It's the graph. I am showing this one, as I showed you, each one of those spaghetti plots is a model. I could show you any number of those. I'm showing you the graph because last year the graph did very well with Beryl, with track and intensity once it got into the Gulf. And this year the graph has been so far this summer performing very well just overall with our weather pattern. So I'll show you this one. I think this is as good an example of a model as any of them as to the potential track and intensity for this storm. So let's take a look at this. This is going into early tomorrow morning, I think before sunrise, and maybe we get a closed low right there. So perhaps it forms a depression early tomorrow morning if convection can get over the center. And actually, as we look at this model run, look, it's the center is at least half exposed. You know, here's all the convection separated from the low-level center that's trying to develop. But if we don't get convection, thunderstorm activity over that center, pressures won't drop. So it may still be that at sunrise we have an exposed swirl here with all the convection displaced off to the south by that wind shear that's cutting across the storm. As it heads down the coast, the wind shear lightens up. Remember, I showed you that wind shear is going to be much stronger down here. So it may get into a pocket across the North Gulf where there's not much shear at all. And models indicate that you've got a center, and now notice the convection is now over the top of that developing low-level center. So by Wednesday night and Thursday morning, I think we have a much better chance of this actually becoming a depression or a named tropical storm. Dexter is the next name on the list. So I think this modeling is showing a very reasonable outcome as to what can be expected over the next 48 hours. New Orleans then getting a lot of rain as it grazes across southeast Louisiana. Then it's interesting, this model, the past couple of runs, has done the same thing. It wants to tighten up and intensify a little low right here off the coast of Louisiana. There's Vermilion Bay. So perhaps near Vermilion Bay, Friday morning, we actually get a named tropical storm. And again, at this point, you can see how the convection is over the low-level center. As we looked earlier, all the shear is down in here, so it's removed from that upper-level shear. So perhaps we do get a strengthening system. Right before, at least in this model run, it turns north and makes landfall, perhaps between Lake Charles and Lafayette. So again, this is just one of many models that are all showing a similar outcome, some with tracks a little further south, some with tracks a little further north. I think this one is a good compromise as to what we might expect over the next several days, now through Friday afternoon. But clearly, with a storm that is forecast to get close to Houston, it's something that we need to pay very close attention to. And absolutely, models are not perfect by any stretch, especially this far out. This storm could turn north further to the east, or wait and turn north further to the west, closer to Houston, Galveston. So this is something we're just going to have to watch day by day, stay close to the forecast with us a couple of times a day. And this update is always going to be here, and we're updating on Plus 4 times a day. So you'll always have the latest. It's always available. Download the app and you've got the update right at your fingertips. So that's Friday afternoon. Now, regardless, models, not just this one, they are giving us some rain out of this Friday night into Saturday. So I think we're going to get at least some rain out of that. Let's talk about what's steering it to the west. We talked about this last night. It is a big dome of high pressure in the mid and upper levels. So that's the center of the high, but as they often do, it's not a perfect round circle. It's elongated, and it's elongated right into and across the deep southeast United States. So wind flow aloft is moving. I'm not left-handed. It's moving around that ridge of high pressure. That's the flow it's caught up in. Now, think of this as a mountain of air. So what you have is a low pressure area that, because of the Coriolis effect, wants to be pulled poleward. It wants to go north, but it cannot right now, because think of this blue area here as a mountain. It is a mountain range. It's a mountain of air. And it's parked, there's the base of the mountain, right along the northern Gulf. So as this wants to go north, it can't do it because it's being blocked by that mountain. As long as that mountain stays strong to the north, this will be forced to go west. It'll just flow along with the flow around the big clockwise rotation. It'll be forced to go west. The question is, and it always is with these, where will that ridge, it's called a ridge of high pressure, the mountain of air, where will the ridge get weak enough for this to turn north? Will it be Louisiana? Will it be Mississippi? Will it be Texas? And that's a question we're just not sure of. We look at computer models, and they are suggesting right now that it's going to most likely turn into Louisiana. That's where it will find a weakness or a little valley to go north into. But it's certainly not set in stone. So that's one of the big question marks when it comes to hurricane track forecasting and computer modeling. The modeling's gotten a lot better over the years, so we have a lot more confidence in it. But until this system actually forms a center, there remain a lot of question marks as to exactly how this is going to play out. With it coming so close to us, I mean, Lake Charles, Lafayette may sound like a long way away, but if you think about the geography of the United States, you know, they're very close to each other. So this is going to be a close call for Houston and Southeast Texas, even though modeling right now focusing on Southwest Louisiana as we head into Friday. So we'll wait and see if that ridge can hold strong or if it weakens and everything moves north before it gets to Houston, Galveston. Regardless of intensity, even the weak tropical systems are absolutely notorious for dumping a ton of rain. They still pick up a ton of tropical moisture. This modeling has the heaviest rain offshore. So these oranges and these reds correspond to 3 to 8 inches of rain. Maybe it's offshore where the modeling has it. Maybe it's a little further onshore. And as you can see, there's some yellow near Houston and Southeast Texas. So it's picked Bushit or Continental, that one tiny little spot, to get a ½ inch of rain, 4/10. But within the yellow, you can see 2 to 3 inches of rain. That's through the day. That's through the day Friday into Saturday, and by Saturday 7 p.m. So it looks like we're going to get at least some rain out of this Friday, Saturday, but it just remains to be seen exactly how much, by how close this gets into Houston, Galveston, or if it turns north closer to Louisiana and stays further away from us, we would get less rain in that scenario. So big picture. Here in Houston, Wednesday, Thursday, it looked dry as a bone. High pressure at the surface moves in. That's giving us, bringing in some dust as well. So the next couple of days are hazy and hot, humid, mid to upper 90s, but no rain expected Wednesday or Thursday. But you can see the modeling as we watch this system. And this is actually a different model. This is the Euro. This has it a little further south. So we'll have to wait and see exactly which run this storm ends up tracking most closely to. That's going into Thursday. We're dry and hot. We're watching the Gulf like a hawk. 7-day forecast, hot and muggy. Wednesday, Thursday, dry. For the moment, I'm going to leave in pretty good rain chances Friday and Saturday. We will ratchet those down or ratchet them up, depending on how this storm evolves, especially as we get closer to Wednesday and Thursday. I think especially by Wednesday night, Thursday morning, we're going to have a pretty good idea as to where this storm is going to end up going, what intensity it's going to be, and if it will impact us at all, or if it's going to dump rain or move into Louisiana and keep us relatively dry. So that is where we stand here on this Tuesday evening. Next live update on the TV side, KHOU 11 News at 10. And then, of course, in the morning, we're live from 5 to 7 on the TV side, also on Plus. And then on Plus, we stay live 7 to 9 with complete detailed updates on the tropics and the rest of the day's news and weather. We'll see you at 10 o'clock tonight for our next live update.